boyfriend admitted I was a rebound and he never had feelings for me. I, 23F, just ended a short relationship with a narcissist, 26M. We started as FWB 2.5 months ago. Before we first met in person, we acknowledged neither of us was looking for anything too long-term or serious. I'm leaving the city for a PhD next fall. He didn't clarify why on his end, but I figured maybe he was too busy with finishing med school and working on his startup to get invested in anything. Throughout our FWB, he initiated texting all day every day, sometimes triple texting me and FaceTiming me to make sure I got home safe. We had a ton in common research-wise and in our witty banter. He kept me in the loop on everything. So many inside jokes and voice note exchanges. He even took me camping when I said I'd never been. He told me multiple times I was an absolute delight, so unbelievably smart and sexy, the best he's ever had. Can't stop thinking about me, wished we were cuddled up. In my mind, it seemed like he'd fallen harder than he'd anticipated and was making a ton of time for me despite his busy schedule. He'd ask me to spend the entire weekend over at his place and work to finish as much as possible before I got there. He got hair products, so I could braid his hair and watch shows with him. That kind of thing. He even deleted his Tinder in front of me unprompted because he said he didn't need it anymore. So after 2.5 months of seeing each other exclusively, I start to develop feelings for him. It really hit me when we went kayaking and someone asked if we were married or dating and he laughed and said we're just friends. I thought back to us holding hands in a tent and falling asleep together, and it just didn't feel that casual. So I asked him a week later if he was interested in seeing where this goes and said I wasn't sure I could continue much longer being physically engaged since I'd started to develop feelings. He replied that we were indeed practically dating and that he enjoyed his time so much with me. He said he still wasn't sure about long distance or anything too serious quite yet, but what we had was definitely more than a FWB. He then asked me if I would go out with him. I said yes, and he amped up the romance even more over the week. He thanked me for being so open and honest, calling this extremely attractive and reassuring. When we met up again, he had set up a massage area for me and was calling me babe. He told me everything was on him for the weekend. We had great sex per usual and cuddled up inside with some food. The next day, I asked if we should continue the conversation about dating in person since it transpired over text. This is where the truth came out. I'd told him about my past relationships, and he'd hinted at his, but kept it brief and didn't lament, so I'd honestly thought he'd moved on. Holy shit, was I wrong. He starts by saying he got out of an 8-year relationship 8 months ago, 3 years long distance. He thought he would marry this girl, but then when he started actually thinking about proposing, realized he wanted a Muslim wife to maintain the household since he wasn't disciplined enough to, had no idea he wanted to become a more conservative Muslim since he was, you know, fucking me, so he broke up with her. He then told me I was a rebound, and he didn't have feelings for me after I pushed him on what this meant in our context. He said he reacted impulsively over text when he asked me out because he didn't want to lose the distraction I provided from his ex, and maybe the reason he treated me like a girlfriend is because that's all he's known for 8 years. But he did not have feelings for me. He said I proved to him that there were other smart, boated AI fucked up women in the world, and when he was with me, he wasn't thinking about his ex. He did concede that maybe he knew in the back of his mind he was treating me like a girlfriend, but didn't want to acknowledge it. I told him the reason I began the discussion via text was to give him time to think free of any biased dispositions on my end. I asked how could he ethically ask me out and game a relationship for a week. He even acknowledged that if I hadn't brought it up again, he wouldn't have said anything. He figured we'd have either broken up organically, because of LDR, or he'd eventually come clean yet again about the type of wife he's looking for. I then told him he was selfish and manipulated me into whatever arrangement would get me to continue having sex with him. Yes, we said we were FWB, but he wanted a girlfriend experience without any commitment or clear communication. He straight up asked me to be his GF rather than ending things and finding someone else to fuck. Is mind-boggling. I packed up my things and left without acknowledging his goodbye or tears. I'm more stunned than hurt, but what a lesson on the downsides of going with the flow. I'm glad I left with my dignity. For now, a dating break, but eventually on to better things. TL, Dr. FWB to relationship to realizing I'm just a rebound. He was projecting a relationship onto to continue fucking me and distracting himself from an 8-year relationship ending. This guy isn't worthy of having a Muslim, Catholic, Buddhist, atheist, you name it, wife. Manipulating someone like this is a horrible thing, and he better learns how to do chores inside a house by himself, because no women deserve to deal with a guy like this. It's good that you're more stunned than hurt, but it's really sad that even your good memories with him will be tainted by the thought that it wasn't real. Good luck up and good riddance to your ex. This is the kind of guy who will browbeat a woman from his own culture into behaving like a model submissive housewife and cheat on her constantly. He wanted a Muslim wife to maintain the household since he wasn't disciplined enough to, had no idea he wanted to become a more conservative Muslim since he was, you know, fucking me. He does not want to be a more conservative Muslim. He wants a house slave wife. OMG, the whole post. 'Tis mind-boggling. He wanted his cake. He thought he could have his cake and eat it too with you. So he did. Disabuse him of that notion. You're probably right. Every woman he's dated so far has been very successful and ambitious. The prototypical modern, Western woman. This last bit you wrote is exactly what I told him. He wants his cake and to eat it too. But he can't have both. He can't maintain the emotional and physical ties of a relationship while not maintaining sincere attachments or an ability to commit long term. Either stay single, find a fuck buddy, or find a wife. He wants a wife to maintain prayer schedules and keep religion at the center, as he's failed to do himself since leaving home. It's pathetic he expects to outsource all this responsibility to his future wife. What a trash fire of a human being. I know you're hurting and you have every right to, but you just dodged a heck of a bullet. He was even dumb enough to admit what a failure of a person he was to your face. Wow. Block him and don't doubt you did the right thing. The things some people can do to others is astounding, but don't get wrapped up in asking why. There is a real trap there, because there will never be answers worth the effort. The longer you chew over how something like that could happen, the longer you delay the healing. Some people are just garbage. Just focus on yourself. You exited with your head held high. That's worthy of praise. You'll find someone who cherishes you as they should. Thank you for the kind note. Honestly, I think he wanted to take some of the blame away from himself by basically labeling himself a bad person. It makes it easier to separate your bad actions from the responsibility you hold for them. But like you said, I can't get into all of the whys and nuance, which is totally my tendency. I'm counting myself lucky and honestly feel so bad for the girl he was with for 8 years. The only reason I gave him any feedback was so he'd hopefully not do this to anyone else. But who knows? Not my problem anymore. Sending good vibes your way, and thanks so much again for the encouragement. Good for you knowing your worth. I hope you don't feel humiliated, because you shouldn't. You are a strong woman. Stronger than that weak man. You were honest, you communicated to him clearly. It was him and how he treated you gave you the feels. I hate when men do this, that act all wow what you're doing. I told you it was FWB when their actions were very different. So glad you brought it up again. How long would he have led you on for? You are strong. Good luck moving to the new city and hope you do well with your PhD. Stay strong, but sending a hug because still stings. Are you uncertain about leaving him? Don't be. Your assessment at the end was absolutely spot on, and echoed what I thought to myself as I was reading up to it. I was exactly your age and fresh out of college when a guy did the same to me. He manipulated me, played out a relationship for a week, then coldly and maliciously ghosted me on the day of my college graduation. I tell you what, there was a split second where I wondered if I would work through it with him. I needed a place to live, so I set up a meeting with a girl from Craigslist who had a room to let. And what I found out was that I got involved with him on the night he pulled the exact same behavior, at a party, on this girl. In fact, he even told me and our friends there about how it happened, because she got really crazy and intense. The girl said, "I like you and let's be roommates on one condition, he never comes here." He would not leave me alone for over a month. And yes, that means he was doing it while he started getting on with me. I mean, it was really a blessing that I had to make a decision then and there about either I wanted a cool roommate and a place to live, or the potential of more bullshit from him. Easy choice. My 35F boyfriend of 3 years, 42M, always retaliates when I do something he doesn't like. I understand this isn't normal and I probably need to leave. I don't know how to draw boundaries very well. For example, I am doing all the legwork and paying for his custody case with his kids, and I do a large share of the childcare. This wouldn't be an issue if every time I go and see my family he didn't get upset and start a fight with me. My family does not like him and therefore does not want to meet him or have him visit, so I either have to come back early or not go at all. His rationale for being upset is that I am enabling my parents to ignore him by continuing to see them like nothing is wrong, and that when his sisters refused to accept me he basically cut them off until they came around. I tried setting a boundary last night, saying I understand him feeling left out and upset and that I was trying to get my parents to come around bit by bit. I suggested maybe he could try getting them some gifts for upcoming days and holidays as a gesture or just something to show that he wanted to meet them. The best thing he could do is treat me well and not leech off me, but I couldn't say that. I then said I didn't appreciate him criticizing me for something out of my control, and that while I get that it sucks I can't just cut them off because 1, it won't work, and 2, I really need my family as we are very close. He ended up going to bed cold and not affectionate at all, and I tried to cope with it hoping he would be up for talking in the morning or get over it. So usually if I try to set a boundary he then escalates. This morning he woke me up and told me he was going to work and that I should go to my parents all day because that's what I want to do so badly, and that he was going to go to his cousins after work, then pick his kids up and not be home until late. He never goes to his cousins. And while I have nothing against this, it seemed like a tit-for-tat, retaliation type thing. What would a normal person do in this situation? It sets up a weird panic/anxiety mechanism in me, and he knows this, where I feel like I am being punished and where I know that taking the day to see my parents is like a trap. What would a normal person feel? Would they just feel this was a win/win and be like, oh okay, I guess I will see you tonight? I feel like this behavior is almost like dealing with a child who first throws a tantrum, then if that doesn't work tries to withdraw and sulk, and then if that doesn't work says, well, you do this to me so I'm going to do it back to you right now and twice as bad. BTW, I know I need to leave. I am just asking to 1, help solidify my resolve to do so, and 2, so I know how to stay level-headed in the meantime until I leave. TLDR, my so picks a fight every time I go see my family and then does a weird retaliation thing the next day. How do normal people handle this, before just leaving? I do exactly as he says. Go to your parents, but not just for a day if possible. Do they have a guest bedroom where you can stay a couple of nights? If so, ask if you're welcome and then explain all this to your parents and that you want to leave but don't know how. Time away from your boyfriend will probably clear things up in your head, so you will be able to see even clearer why you need to get out ASAP. Somebody who's playing with your mental health this much is toxic. Maybe even take some emotionally valuable stuff with you. You don't know how your childish boyfriend is going to retaliate if he finds out what you're doing. My 26F boyfriend, 31M, of nearly 5 years broke my non-negotiable and complained about it for months leading up to it. Help. Hi guys. Sorry for the length. I've, 26F, been dating my boyfriend, 31M, for almost 5 years now. Our relationship has always been long distance, about a 2.5-hour drive crossing 2 state lines. We see each other every week though and talk every day. No previous serious relationship on my end and a 7-year serious relationship on his end. 3 years dead bedroom. His ex cheated. Where? Lengthy post lurks below. TW, periods, blood, consent. The issue, there isn't much, or anything, off limits for us that we enjoy, except I have one non-negotiable rule that he doesn't finish inside me. When we see each other we have sex, sometimes multiple times a day. We've always been super comfortable with each other. On Mirena, recent event, and due to it I stopped bleeding. I also have a disorder that causes anxiety attacks and depressive episodes, and getting pregnant now is not the right time, so the thought of it does cause me to have anxiety attacks. Without the visible monthly time, I don't want to take any chances. This is something he knows and we've talked about. He's never wanted to wear a condom because blah blah blah, you know the spiel, so I told him he had to pull out and he always does. I've always told him no about finishing inside me. Drunk, high, sober, during an orgasm, not etc etc. He came in me last night and of course because it was Sunday had to leave to go back home. His reasoning was we were for the first time that he can recall coming together and he didn't want to ruin the orgasm for me after I told him I was coming by pulling out. He says he regrets it, wasn't trying to get one over on me but honestly wanted me to have a good time. He apologized sincerely for it but the whole thing doesn't sit well with me because in more recent events he complains about my rule all the time. One time he even said I always ruin his time, inferring his pleasure from sex has been ruined because I make him pull out. We recently had a conversation about him speaking up in our relationship in general, something he's struggled with for a while now. Sometimes he won't tell me he's mad even though I know he is. He'll get distant for a hot minute and then move on to the next thing like nothing's happened. He's getting better about it and I encourage him to speak up because that's the only way we get better as a couple. But this is not one of those times. I don't know how to better explain it to him in a way he'll actually receive. I just finished speaking to him on his lunch break and he was mad at me because at the conclusion of the conversation I told him he can't complain about this non-stop. I never said it'll be forever. Sure, if we get married and decide to have kids you'll have to, but right now we're not there yet. He claims he doesn't want kids right this moment either. His point is that if he's unhappy about something he should have the right to speak up. I tried explaining that him using my body any which way he feels he's entitled to is not something he gets to complain about because if it's non-negotiable for me it feels manipulative and makes me feel bad. I guess I don't know where he gets off thinking this is something he can constantly bring up and have us be okay. He thinks I'm not listening to him and that I'm wrong because he should be able to voice his thoughts freely. But when does it end? I'm willing to move past this one time because I believe him but I can't move past the complaints. Is there something I'm missing? What can I do? I feel like it's more than just the sex maybe. It has to be because to break up over this is, for a high key lack of a better word, stupid. Too long didn't read. How do I explain to my boyfriend that certain things you can complain about and we can work through /on and other things like consensual sex and my body, X. Him not being about to finish inside me because I don't want it, is not. The way he was so upset that I didn't want him voicing his opinions non-stop, multiple times per week, makes me feel like it's a deal breaker for him but I find the whole thing ridiculous. Why can't he just let this one thing go? Question mark. Since it's Reddit, if you're just going to be mean please just don't. Choosing to be respectful costs absolutely nothing, so does not commenting. Thank you you, grimacing face, edit. Thank you to everyone who has posted so far. A lot of questions about my birth control. I have a hormonal IUD, over 99% effective, placed in perfectly while on my period, effective very moment it was put in and good for 5 years, and my BF knows about it and how it works etc. Though I have a great one I still worry about pregnancy, yes. With the IUD it can result in an ectopic pregnancy, a mess of complications, and even death. I know it's rare and thus irrational, that's what having a mood disorder can do, and I acknowledge that, it's something I'm working on. I also can't really work on this specifically when a hypothetical repeated stressor happens in a space I think is safe. Until then I'd like him to not finish inside me. I guess it hurts also because if he can't work with me on this, what can he work with me on? I'm not perfect and he knows my idiosyncrasies and this is gonna take time. I just need him to hold off until then and maybe he can't so he's verbalizing more than usual.